This week's episode comes from the Dahmer Diary, a 2023 diary and case file on Jeffrey Dahmer. In the back of the book, there are many documents, including the FBI transcript of Dahmer's interview. Are you ready to take a stroll in the darkness? Shall we begin? The following will be a taped interview. The date is going to be the 8th of the 13th, 92. It's going to be at 13:30 hours. This interview is going to be taken from Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer, date of birth 5th, 21st, 60. He is presently incarcerated at the Columbia Correctional Facility. Also present at this time is agent, and that information is redacted, on the Milwaukee FBI office. Question. As I told you earlier, Jeffrey, my main purpose of coming up here was to speak to you about your activities after you were discharged from the service and upon your arrival into South Florida. Basically, what I would like to cover: when did you first arrive in South Florida, and how did you get there? Jeffrey. Okay, I was discharged 6 months early from the service for drinking too much. I didn't want to be discharged early, but they did. So when I arrived in, I think it was South Carolina from Germany, they processed me out and told me that they'd give me a plane ticket to anywhere in the United States that I wanted to go. And I didn't want to go home right away, because I didn't feel comfortable explaining to my folks why I got out 6 months early. So I decided that Miami, Florida, would be a nice warm place to go. They flew me down there. I stayed. I arrived, I think, at the very end of March, I think. March of what year? 81, I think. I'm not real sure. And you flew into where? Miami or Fort Lauderdale? Miami. Got a hotel for a week right on the coast, right in view of the ocean. Do you remember the name of it? Along Collins Avenue. No, I don't remember the name of that hotel. It was on Collins Avenue in Miami Beach. On Collins Avenue in Miami Beach. Stayed there for a week. Ended up running out of money. Didn't think very well ahead. Didn't plan most of the days sleep under the mangroves on the beach and take a shower once or twice a week in a hotel room. I finally got a job after about 2 months there in Sunshine Subs. Where was that? The Sunshine Subs. That's on Collins Avenue also. It's on one of these mall type situations right off the avenue. It had a driveway that went like this, and there are different shops all around the place. How long did you work for them? From about April to September, I think. What position did you have? I had all types of positions: cashier, cook, cleaner, and the guy was paying me under the table, so he wouldn't have to, unintelligible. And at the same time, I was collecting unemployment, so the whole situation was... Do you recall what office you were collecting your unemployment at? What? What office were you collecting your unemployment at? The downtown Miami office, I guess. Miami Beach, or down in the city of Miami. I think the city, because I had to take the bus to get there. And what time did you find housing for yourself when you got this job at Sunshine? I built up enough bank account to get housing sometime in May, and I had one room, place at the Bimini Bay. It's a hotel type setup. Is that on Miami Beach also? Right, on Collins Avenue. It was about maybe a third of a mile from where I worked. I could walk there, and I just had one room, small, short fridge, bathroom, TV. Did you still have your army clothing with you, your fatigues and stuff? I had a suitcase with some of them, with my army discharge papers, civilian clothes. As far as having any army clothes, I threw them away. I wanted nothing more to do with the Greens. Bad memories? Right. So I didn't go walking around in army fatigues or anything like that. You didn't keep anything from your army days? No boots, nothing. What was your bank account at? The highest it was about a little over 1,000. Okay, 1,000. And what bank do you remember? The bank that was right next to the sub shop. And I don't know the name of that anymore. But I was working every day, almost every day. Once in a while, I'd get one day off on the weekend. I'd be working 10, 12 shifts, days from morning to night, and didn't leave any time frame for recreation at all. Do you remember your supervisor's name? Yeah, he was, let's see, Ken. Ken Huleb, I think his name was. What was his last name? Huleb, I think. Houleb. Ken Huleb. About how old was he? He was about 65 when I was done there. Yeah, family-owned business. Do you remember any of the co-workers that you worked with? Yeah, there was this one lady, about a few years older than me, came from England. She was working there even before I was, and we got along pretty well. Had a little friendship, talked. She was always worried about being discovered that she didn't have a green card though. She was always worrying about that. Do you remember her name? Her name I don't remember, no. How old was she? Probably around 25. I know she said she was from England. She had an English accent. Only means of transportation at the time was just public bus, that's it. Public transportation. And like I said, I was working 10, 12 hours a day most of the time. So I didn't have much recreation time. And let's see what else. The only time I really went to any malls was the Omni Mall. That was in downtown Miami. Right. I went there once and looked around. One thing that struck me about that mall was that most of the jewellery stores here in Wisconsin, the highest priced jewellery you'll see on display is maybe 5,000 or something like that. Down there, I remember seeing this $250,000 ruby bracelet right on display, right in the mall. It was impressive. Yeah, you don't see things like that up here. But I just walked around. Other than that, that was all I did when taking the bus. Other than it being warm climate and everything, was that the specific reason you chose to go down to Florida? That was the only reason. You've never been there before? Never been there before, no. Do you have any friends or family staying down there? Nobody. What about in your free time? What did you do in your free time down there? Walk along the beach, along Collins Avenue, drink too much. I used to drink in excessive after work because when I didn't have the apartment, I would hate going back to the beach to sleep on the beach, and so I'd stay up drinking till maybe 3 in the morning. And this one time I got mugged. The guy took 100 from me. Did you report it to the police? No. Another time I remember going back to the beach, and there was going back to the place where I had, my sleeping area set up, and there were some other guys there, and I almost got knifed because they didn't know who I was. They thought I was trying to rob them or something. Another time I tripped over an opossum in the middle of the night. Scared the hell out of me. Lucky you didn't get bit. Yeah. On your free time, you didn't socialise with anybody? Go to any clubs? Just that lady. Just that lady, the English lady? Uh-huh. What about clubs? I went into some of the bars, the local bars around there, on the Miami Beach area. Uh-huh. Did you ever come a time that you moved from the Bimini apartment, to someplace further north? Yeah, to Ohio. That was in September. Oh, okay. Let's back up then. While you're still in Florida, did you ever move into the North Miami Beach area? The only place I ever had any residence was Bimini Bay. That was the only place where I was at. How do you spell that? I think it's Bimini. It was about 400 a month. Did you ever travel within the state of Florida? Went to Fort Lauderdale once with that girl's boyfriend. He came all the way over from Europe trying to re-establish a relationship with her. Do you remember his name? I don't remember his name, no. They didn't get along too well. Is he English also? Mm-hmm. And he had a car. One time we all packed into the car and went up to Fort Lauderdale and had a couple of drinks at some of the bars there, and I went back home, but that was about it. What kind of car did he operate? I don't know. Some old four-door, like a Dodge. Some old underscript. I wouldn't even remember. I'm just guessing. Right. What about while you were down there? Did you ever have to seek medical attention? Did you ever get hurt or sick enough that you needed medical attention in a hospital? Well, the closest I came to doing that was the first week I was there. Drank a whole bottle of that grasshopper liquor, liquor, and I got sick as a dog on that, and I called the hotel doctor. Did he come to help? Yeah, he came. Do you remember his name? No, I don't. What about medication? Did you have any prescribed medication? No. Did you ever take up residency with another person that may have had an apartment or home? Never. Pretty much kept to yourself. Uh-huh. Too busy working. And you say that at the time you're also having a problem with alcohol. Uh-huh. That stems from all of the excess, yeah. Was that every day? Not every day, because I'd have to work, but on the weekends, and it got worse towards the end because I ended up drinking on my bank account. That's why I moved back to. Would you have to drink more and more to get to the same high? I can hold an awful lot of liquor. It takes an awful lot to get me passed out drunk, so yeah, I have a big tolerance for alcohol. Tolerance, yeah. See, I don't, I'm a cheap date. When you're consuming large amounts of alcohol, do you recall what you do? Do you have control of your facilities? 99% of the time I do. The one time that I was robbed, I don't remember walking back to the place where, lying on the front of the store, missing my wallet. That time I don't remember. That was your hair length at the time when you got discharged from the service when you lived in Florida. Like this. About the way it is now? Mm-hmm. Never had it any longer than this. Sometime last year, on two separate occasions, I had two independent witnesses that came forward and came up to Hollywood Police Department to meet with me. And one, I remember lying in a hotel room. That was one of the times I had a hotel room, and I remember seeing on the news that missing boy Adam Walsh, and that was the same time the president was shot around that time too. So I remember both those stories. That's right, Reagan was shot in March of '81. Yeah, right, yep. So this one gentleman came down to Florida from out of the state. He lived in Hollywood, and the other gentleman still lives there. And I guess they were following your case from the point of July 91 last year of 91. Uh-huh. Until the president and the gentleman said that he had an encounter there with you. Did you ever go up to the Hollywood Mall? The only mall I went to was the Omni Mall. That's the one time. The Omni? Never went. Wouldn't even know where to find the Hollywood Mall. I asked this gentleman, I said, what was the encounter that you were speaking about? And he said, well, I was at this store inside the mall, and the person that he believed to be you, came up to him, tried to pick him up, had a conversation, asked him, isn't it a beautiful day outside? And started following this gentleman. He got a little leery, and he continued to walk through the mall, and you followed him, and eventually he lost you somewhere inside the Sears Mall. That's my purpose for being here. You at the time were never in Sears or ever in Hollywood, Florida? Absolutely not. And I wasn't. I didn't have a place to go back with anyone where I felt comfortable with anyway. I remember sitting after work one night right on Collins Avenue, and there was this guy from Canada, and he tried to pick me up, which is a switch, and I didn't want anything to do with him because my place was a mess, and I just didn't feel like going back. So no, I wasn't into picking up people or starting relationships with anyone then. Then this gentleman that came in from out of state and spoke to us, he also, seeing accounts of you on the news and also in the newspaper, he brought down this newspaper from Alabama with him. And he said that he remembered that he parked his vehicle in the parking lot and he was approaching the store. He saw some child apparently having a problem with the mail. He described the mail, similar to you. And the one, coincident. Excuse me? What a coincidence, huh? And the thing that stuck out in his mind is that here it was the middle of July and the gentleman was wearing an army fatigue jacket. What year was this supposed to be? 81 when you were down there? Oh, 81, down in Alabama. The only time I was in Alabama. No, not Alabama, Hollywood, Florida. He came down from Alabama to tell me about this incident while he was living in Hollywood, Florida. Oh, I see, all right. And then he said that the boy was saying, don't want to go, I don't want to go. And this man was struggling with him and eventually threw him into a vehicle. And the vehicle took off. I said, did you see this gentleman's face and everything? And he said, I saw his profile because he saw you from an angle. I said, well, who do you believe it to be? And he said, I saw this article in the news and I saw the newspaper and I got a flashback and I believe it to be Jeffrey. I said, well, we'll have to follow this up. Right. That was the purpose for coming here. Right. And now we want to know if you had anything to do with the abduction of Adam Walsh. I didn't. You heard all the false leads about I supposedly had done something to some woman in Germany. That was proven to be just bunk. No, I didn't hear that. Talked to, and the name is redacted. He knows all about that stuff. Right, I spoke to him. And people said they see me in Arizona and in California. Never been there. And but this, I can't prove that I didn't do anything to them. But the biggest thing I can say is why would I have admitted to half of them that they would have known nothing about and then leave him out? That's what the person's name is redacted was explaining. I told the person's name is redacted that I wanted to clear my conscience of everyone. So it wouldn't make any sense to be trying to hide that. As an individual, even me, I would be embarrassed of something that I'd done in life, I might divulge certain things, but there are some things that I would keep secret, maybe take to my grave with me. Well, I don't want to do that. So that's why I spilled everything when I was hopeless to hide anything anymore. Right. So, like I said, that's why we're up here. And I had to ask you right out if you had anything to do with the kidnapping and the murder of Adam Walsh. Nothing. One of the things that did impress me last week when we were talking was your openness and honesty about this. You remember we've talked about this and them, and I'd ask you, and I'd shared this with such and such. If you would have done that, would you tell us? And you said, absolutely. And then I said, why? And you had a good reason. It's like you said, no secret. There's no point in trying to hide it anymore, you know? The devil's advocate, I mean, white shirts, those people that we always have to answer to, said, well, he's afraid of the death penalty. Florida has the death penalty. I would welcome the death penalty. I know, we talked a little about that last week. In fact, if that would get me the death penalty, I'd admit to it. You think it would? I'll be fine. That'd be fine with me. No, we don't want you to. I don't want to go on rotting away in this place. I'd be more than happy to get it over with like that. We want the right person that's responsible for his murder. You know, we don't want somebody just confessing out just for the sake of copping out so he could receive the death penalty, as in your case. Uh-huh. No, I wouldn't want that. I only want the truth from you. I'm just saying this is the thing that we hear. I found our conversation last week to be very open and very honest, refreshing. That's good. Some of the things you said made sense. It made sense to me as we were talking about that. Then we get to these others that say, well, no, it's because of this, or he's embarrassed because it's a child, you know. Never went after children. In my interest was in older adults of bar age, and all of them, when I met, were bar age. Conrad, I thought he was of age. So did the police. That's why they let him back out. I saw the recent pictures of him, not the pictures of the news. He looked like a 12-year-old kid, that picture. But when you see the older pictures of him, he looks 19, 20 years old. Right. And there was a 15-year-old guy that I brought back that accused me of kidnapping him or something and everything, working on the 219 cleaning up, you know, all through the night and stuff. So it's amazing how young some of these people are that in these bars and everything. I handled a big case last week. Don't know if you get the news up here or anything, but that little missing child in Milwaukee, 6-year-old girl, I didn't hear about that. Yeah, she was abducted. Then we ended up finding her 3 days later dead, and it was sad, you know. What did a 6-year-old do to anybody? Right. Now, I have no interest in younger children. I'd like to get into some of, you know, personal background and so forth, you know. So, do you want another muffin? No. You sure? Yeah. How did you like them? They're good. They are. I just got another one. I said, boy, these things are good. Yeah. What was your relationship with your parents growing up? Pretty good. Pretty average. How many siblings are there in the family? I have one younger brother, 6 years younger. Just the two of you? Right. At what age in life did you feel like there was something different about you? Oh, I knew. I knew what my orientation was around 13. That's preferably homosexual? Uh-huh. That was at 13, you say? Right. Was it some specific incident that made you realise that there was something different about you? No. It just seemed to be the way things were, and there was no specific incident that triggered it, you know? They say people are molested by someone. That's what makes them become homosexual. That never was in my case. You were never a victim of child abuse? No. So it just stemmed to be inborn, whether that's true or not. I don't know, but that's the way it seems to me. Right. I read some things recently about that, you know, the hypothalamus, that, being born nature as opposed to nurture. I don't know which is true or not, so all you can do is speak for your own. Right. Was there any particular person that you put your trust in, that you confided in? No, just me and myself. Is that right? You kept it to yourself? Right. Even throughout your high school days? Well, I had friends and everything, but yeah, the important issues I kept to myself. What were your important issues then? Oh, just my orientation, my lack of goals. Did you feel you were an underachiever then in your high school years? I was, yeah. At what age did you first get involved in crime? Drunk and disorderly started when I was about 18. You were doing drinking in your teenage years? Uh-huh, yeah. How about drugs? No, not drugs, just marijuana during high school. That was it. Your drinking consumed all of your time? Yeah, that's when I started drinking. I started drinking my junior year of high school. Did you graduate from high school? Oh, yeah. So it probably didn't have an effect with your, no, it didn't really affect the grades too much. How were your grades? Average C's and B's. Did you participate in any after-school activities? They just had tennis team. I was in that for about a year, my junior, but I didn't stick with it. Did you go on to college then? for 3 months. Where was that at? Ohio State. And literally drank my way out of that. When you drink, what would you drink? Beer? Beer. Those Hoobling mixed drinks, hard liquor at the local bars, wine. Do you recall when you had your first homosexual act? Let's see. Well, the first time I was approached was over in Germany, Landshall, Germany. I was working at a hospital, Landshall Hospital, and one of the sergeant majors, I think he was either the type of sergeant with two bars underneath, or he had his own apartment. And one night I was drinking in the local NCO club. He approached me, said he had a party going on back at his place, asked me if I wanted to go back. I said sure. And we went back. Turned out there was nobody in the apartment, just him. And he lights up this bowl of hash, smoked some hash, drank some beer, and he goes, takes his shower, comes back and tries to get me to hop in bed with him. I said no thanks. So I just got walking or staggering out after that hash. That was good hash. And so that was the first time I've been approached. The first real encounter was in a bookstore in Milwaukee. At what age? Probably 22 or 23, somewhere around that age. Were you into pornographic material? Oh yeah, I spent thousands of dollars on that over the years. Yeah. Nothing in your teenage years? No, nothing then. First time I picked up what caught your interest towards the pornographic materials? What? What caught your interest specifically? Oh, the pornography they had over in Germany. Is different than the United States? That was the first time I ever saw any pornography with the orientation that I have. It was over in Germany, and since I didn't have the time or the place to develop any relationships with anybody, I just satisfied myself with pornography. So I continued buying it down when I was in Florida, probably for the same reason everybody else buys pornography, you know? When would it have been that you ended up picking up your first victim? That was Stephen Hicks. That was up here in Milwaukee? Right, and I've gone. That would have been Ohio. Ohio, right. And that's been gone over many times before. So all you have to do is ask for, right, and you'll get a complete rundown of that one. There were events in your childhood that you attribute to for you becoming a serial murderer? No, none. The alcohol? It's still a mystery to me, you know. Lots of people are big drinkers and they don't go out and do this. No, I don't know. To this day, you can't figure out why. I have no idea. No idea why I started getting the fantasies and the thoughts when I was about 16. That's when it started kicking in. Went over that with you last time. Uh-huh. So no, it's still a mystery to me. I have no idea. And even the psychologists, they have no idea. All they do is make things, they label them. Sure. What about your victims? Was there any specific way you went around to select them, or was it a crime of opportunity? As I said, I was interested in finding the type. The Chip and Dale type, good looking, swimmers type build, right, gymnast type build, and it was not a case of hating them. It was just it was the only way I knew to keep them there and keep them with me. It gave me a sense of total control and increased the sexual feel, I guess. Knowing that I had total control over them and that I could do with them as I wished, that was a motivation. There was no hatred involved at all. When you saw that specific person you desired, did you have a plan, or just how did you pick these people up? Did you rouse them? In bars, offered them money? That was basically that. They willfully came back to the place with you? Right. You never had to threaten? Never threatened. A weapon to coerce them back there? No, never did that. Growing up, tell me, were you involved with a paedophile? No. You had no desires towards children at that time either? No. In West Dallas, there was some lewd and lascivious behaviour in a park that I was involved in for about a year. You were arrested there? Right. But there was no assault or any children or anything. It was just masturbation. Speaking with Name Redacted, I guess his interviews with you, he said you were really heavy into masturbation? Right. When did that start in your life? I don't know, 13, something like that? And the obsession just grew? Yeah, and grew, all the obsessions. I made a mistake the first encounter I had with anyone was a kid across the street. We were both about the same age. It was consensual, in a fault. In Ohio? Yeah, that was really the first time, but it was just very light sex, kissing, holding, that type of thing. How old were you at the time? I was 14. I think he was 14, something like that. It was consensual. And the next time after that wasn't until you were in the service. That was not, that was not until the Hicks incident. That was not consensual. Right. This obsession that you speak about, I mean, how were you able to control yourself while you were in the service and going through high school and into the service? heavy drinking, pornography and masturbation. They satisfied the needs at the time? Right. Once I had the opportunity and a place where I could actually make those fantasies come true, and trying to hold them back was just seemed to be too much. I went through that with you too, unintelligible. Desire grew and grew, more constant, stronger. So once you were able to obtain your own apartment, your own place, even before that, even before, I was driven enough to try to do, actually do it in West Dallas before I got the apartment. That's how driven and how strong the desire was. When did you first ever think about killing somebody? When did that enter your mind? When I was six. Six, when I was about 15 or 16, as fantasies started entering my head. When they did, I don't know. I never thought it would really happen, but everything was set up so perfectly that one time in Ohio. With the hitchhiker? Yeah, yeah. That's no excuse for it, but it's just weird how everything was just perfect that one time. What did, Jeffrey, we didn't talk in great detail about that fantasy. What was it that you'd be seeing when you would close your eyes, or the arousal would be you would be feeling? What exactly was that? Yeah. Thoughts of a good looking, well built young man having total control over him. Uh, I don't know if killing ever came into play, but that was the only way to keep him, then that would be done. So then the total domination, right. Love slave? Yeah. Okay. What about the dismembering? That happened more as necessity. The first time I started, I didn't know how to dispose of the remains, and so, but once I started doing it, it became sexually exciting to me. We talked about the roadkill, and bringing it back and dissecting it, right, and taking the skin off it. There was nothing sexual about that. That was just curiosity, morbid curiosity. What about the humans? And that did become sexual as the years went by. Maybe if you could detail for me exactly what the taking of the skin off. Was there some? I did do that one time. I didn't know if it could be done. Wanted to see if it could be. It's possible, and just keeping mementos, the skulls. Any other body parts? Sometimes genitals, hands. That's about it. One time I tried to mummify one of the heads, but I took the bone out of the back there and scooped the brain out and soaked the whole head, the flesh on it, and acetone. And it worked for a while. That's the one I kept in the locker at work when I was at the work release program. But I did just do that one time. Where did you learn about the so much about the anatomy? Did you have books on this? No, it was trial and error. I really didn't know that much about the anatomy at that time. You were a medic, right? That was just general field, real general knowledge. Probably had as much knowledge as either of you would about. What about? How did you learn about what chemicals to use? That was trial and error too. I had called a couple of taxidermists that I wanted to dry out rabbit skins or something like that. And there was this pharmacy right next to the apartment that had where you could buy a gallon of chloroform, either formaldehyde, so it's pretty convenient. Right. So you would control some of your victims with chloroform or ether. I tried that, but it never worked. For some reason, these two chemicals did not work. Whether I had the wrong type, I don't know. It was just the sleeping pills that was most effective. You never had to use physical force to keep them there? A couple of times I did. I never wanted to make it as quick as painless as possible, right? And the one time there was a physical fight, I was out of pills. That was the time I told you the guy rolled on the floor and knocked the table over. There's a March statuses, those Griffins. And the other time was when that 15-year-old went back with me. He was working the bar, 219 bar. And I didn't have any pills, so I whacked him with a rubber mallet in the back of the head. He left, came back, asked for some money, got into a fight, ended up letting him go in the morning. Then he went and told the police, a wild tale. They didn't believe him, and so, but that was about the only two times. What type of tools did you use for dismembering these victims? Large hunting knife with a rubber grip, very large. Bought it at the knife store in the Grand Mall. Serrated? No. No serrated, it was just large. The blade was about that big, thick, very sharp. Did that work? Yeah. The rest of the transcript is available in the Dahmer diary. Available now. Night night, sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite.